Hey everyone, my name's Luke and welcome to my channel. Tonight there's a bit of an unexpected break in the clouds and that's a perfect chance for me to show you all this, my brand new ASIAIR Plus. Luckily I received the device a few days ago and I've had a chance to slightly acquaint myself with its features, get everything set up so I can just jump straight into making content and sharing it all with all you guys at home. I guess what I can share straight away is it was a really very straightforward setup process, completely painless really, moving over from it all being set up on a laptop over to the ASIAIR Plus itself. I literally just unplugged all my cables from a USB hub, stuck them in the side of the ASIAIR Plus and supplied it with some power, and it just did all the rest. There was a small online activation to do. I found out that I couldn't complete that on my tablet as it can't actually connect to the internet and the ASIAIR Wi-Fi at once. It's not a cellular tablet, so I did that on my phone instead, and that worked completely fine. Then from that point on, it's just a one-time activation thing, and that's about it really. Everything else just worked completely out of the box. There was one final thing, the autofocus, because I've got a ZW autofocus and I'd already learned exactly how much backlash that focuser has when it's attached to my Esprit. I just input that and straight away autofocus worked just perfectly right out of the box. It pretty much blew my mind, to be honest with you. Anyway, if this is a device you're interested in, you've probably, like me, seen just about every unboxing going and can't really stomach much more of them, so I didn't want to cover old ground again and do another one of those things and show you the same things that everybody else has already. I thought I'd just show you me getting set up for a night of imaging, and I'm going to shoot tonight IC63, the Ghost in Cassiopeia, for as long as I possibly can before clouds stop me. Anyway, all that said, now I'm going to jump over onto the phone, which I'm going to be controlling the device with tonight. I'm going to screen record and take you through just what I do to get set up for a night of imaging. Alright, so first things first, you're going to have to open up your Wi-Fi settings. You're going to see ASIAIR created Wi-Fi network. In my case, I've already provided it with the password that it requires, which is just 12345678. They're all the same. Indeed, Chloe's ASIAIR Pro is the same as that as well. But once you've gone ahead and connected, you can just open up the ASIAIR app. Hopefully rotation's working correctly on the screen for you. Just going to wait a moment for it to set up. And here we can see it's input already the date and time, the latitude and longitude of my observing location from the phone's GPS. I've got it selected as an EQ mod mount that's connected. Indeed, it'll start right up here and you can just select yourself which it is. In my case, it's this. It's going to ask you your main and guide scope focal length. In my case, I happen to know that the Esprit is 645. Just to test it, that first time I set up, I actually input 650, something very close to the truth. And the first time it did a successful plate solve, it actually adjusted that amount to the correct amount on its own. The second number over here, the 180mm, that's the Skywatcher Finder Guider that I've got. I know that that's 180mm focal length. As you can see, tonight I'm going to be using the 2600 MC Pro. I've actually got it running through the Optilong L Extreme filter as well, as the target I've chose is a narrowband target, and I'm shooting from heavy light pollution, so shooting it without a filter is probably not going to go too well. And as you can see on the guide camera, I've got selected a 120mm mini and my EAF is also connected. So I'm going to hit enter and we'll jump onto the next page. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is just take a preview exposure. It's already set to be a 5-second shot, and hopefully this will be enough to show you the stars on the screen, and we can check if everything's close enough in focus that we can move on to the next step, which is going to be polar alignment. So I'll just let this load and we'll take a quick look. Okay, opening up the screen there, it looks like the stars are indeed in focus. So I'm going to move straight ahead and go over to tap where it says preview, and the next thing I want to go into is PA, that stands for polar alignment. It's going to tell you how to set things up. In this case I'm going to use 5-second exposures. You can use more or less, but as I'm shooting this through an L Extreme, I think it'll need a slightly longer exposure than usual. Normally I'd use maybe a 1 or 2 second exposure. This should now take a shot and solve it, and then make a request to move the mount by about 60 degrees. So you see it's solved that, and I can now hit next. Maybe you can hear just next to me, or maybe you can't, I guess. the mount is now slewing around 60 degrees. All right, that's about to finish, and when it does, it's going to take another 5-second exposure and try and calculate just how far in or out of polar alignment I currently am before I get started. Okay, so it's calculated that. All I need to do now is tap Let's Go. And as we can see, I need to move the mount to the left. So I'm just going to put the phone somewhere comfortable a moment. Take hold of the azimuth bolts, as it looks like the altitude is only out by 39 arc seconds. And there we go, I'm going to make an adjustment. That may have been an overshoot, but we'll see. So now I can close down the polar alignment part, and I'm going to pick a star nearby to the target I want to shoot. So I said I want to shoot IC63, that's the ghost in Cassiopeia. So I'm going to shoot Caph, which is a star I've been using fairly recently when I want to shoot targets on the eastern side of the Meridian. So to do that, I'm going to select Preview. I've actually already got an input from a previous session where I was just testing things out. But Caph there, as you can see, if I just tap it, if I actually tap the picture, it brings up a little preview and gives you some information. But if I tap the body of the text and then hit that little circled arrow, it's going to then do a GoTo instead. So the mount's now moving. And it's going to make an attempt to plate solve. Alright, so it's picking up a lot of stars. It says it's centered. We'll just see a preview on the screen, load in a second. One thing to note right away is that the actual speed that it downloads frames is quite a lot faster than the ASIAIR Pro. It was never something that really bothered me. If I just click Tools here in Crosshair, we can see it has indeed centered really rather well on Caph there. Alright, so I'm going to close that crosshair down, and the next thing I want to do is actually do a focus. So I'm going to hit the button that says Focuser in my case, and I'm just going to tap AF. So it tells you to focus manually until you see the stars, and then tap the Start button on the right to start autofocus. So I'm going to go ahead and use these 5-second exposures. As I mentioned, I'm using a L Extreme filter, which doesn't let through too much light, so it's going to have maybe some trouble finding appropriate stars. I'm not really sure. This is my first time trying to focus with this filter in place. Alright, it's successfully detected something. It should now start to move inwards and go through the focus point in an attempt to create a V-curve. When I'm doing this with no filters, it was focusing every single time completely. Perfectly, so much so that it made me think something was wrong and that it actually wasn't performing as good as it was. But I verified it with a Batinoff mask on the end, and indeed it was perfect. So I have no reason at all to complain or to guess that it's going to do this wrong either. So what it should do when it's finished this first initial pass is it'll actually go close to focus, back outside of it if you like, and it'll make a final inwards set of movements to reduce any inclusion of backlash in the calculation. And it'll finish, now as you can see, it started with small movements. It'll make about 5 or 4 movements and finish with a focus star. Okay, I expect this last movement was the final one, so that's now focused. I can go ahead and hit close on the focusing tool. I can use this little object browser now, where it says currently Caph, and it'll bring up tonight's best. So you can actually filter through and select things that you actually want. If you know the target that you want, you can just search for it. In my case, it would be IC63, and I'm sure it would find it no problem. But I just thought I'd take this opportunity to have a little bit of a browse down and see what else it recommends for tonight. I do know that the Elephant's Trunk, Andromeda, we were just recently shooting that. The Heart Nebula there, they're all well placed. Yeah, I'd say its selections are actually really quite accurate. These are all good targets for right now, at least to my knowledge. A lot of people have recently been shooting this, the Pac-Man Nebula. I expect IC63 should be somewhere here, as it's really well placed currently at this time of year. Well, most of the year it's reasonably well placed, as it Cassiopeia's circumpolar for me. Okay, I'll just give it, oh, there we go, IC63. Alright, so if I just select the picture, it'll bring up a little preview like I showed before. You can see what the target may indeed look like. And if you select the body of it and the arrow with a circle around it, it's going to now perform a GoTo. Okay, there's no cloud yet in the field of view, so I'm hoping that plate solving should go off without a hitch. So far we're probably about 15 minutes in, and we're focused, polar aligned as well, and we're just about to be plate solved and ready to go. And I'd say that's really not bad at all. 15 minutes from start to finish, and I'm ready to begin my imaging session. In this case, I'm probably going to be using just a auto run mode. What do I have currently selected? 300-second lights. No flats and bias selected just yet, that's fine. I'd shoot those later. Oh yeah, one final thing we should actually go ahead and do is get guiding up and running. So I've currently got a calibration there that's finished, but just for the sake of showing you how to do it, I'm going to go ahead and clear it. In this case, I'm going to use short guide exposures, as there's quite a few very bright stars in the field of view, and all I need to do is hit this button right here once it's looping. It's going to pick a star itself and use kind of a version of PhD multi-star, and it's going to move now through east, west, north and south movements, measure the amount of backlash, measure the angle that the camera is installed into the guide scope at, and from that it's going to find itself an accurate calibration. I suppose at this point it's worth mentioning that the default value that it gives for calibration movements I found was perhaps a little bit high. I think it's set to 2000 milliseconds, whereas I know that this exact same setup when calculated by PhD recommends about 800 milliseconds as calibration step size. So I input that myself manually, as it gives you the provision to do so with no problem whatsoever, and that seems to be giving me really good calibrations. It's worth mentioning, I guess, that some of your best calibrations tend to come when you're a little bit further away from the pole star, but it certainly doesn't seem to be affecting this by the looks. It's calibrated there quite fast. Can't have taken much more than just a minute. That will have something to do with the short exposure time that I'm currently guiding with, and looks like things are going to settle down very nicely indeed there. So I'll just watch the guide in a moment and make sure nothing untoward is about to occur. I'll just push these errors off the left hand side of the screen. Whoop, it seems like we're having a movement there in right ascension that it's correcting for. This sort of thing sometimes happens right after a GoTo. I don't know if anybody else experiences this with their mounts, but it's kind of been a long-standing thing that I've learned to expect. That's why I was waiting rather than just going straight into an imaging plan. And yeah, it looks like things have settled down nicely now. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize the guiding, and I should just be able to now hit go on auto run. I'll just make double sure that my settings are correct on that. I've got it set to automatically Meridian flip. My flip settings are currently to not pause before Meridian, and then actually perform a flip 5 minutes after Meridian. And I've just got it set currently to take 100 light frames. While I'm here, I'll just quickly talk about I think it's underneath guide settings perhaps. Yeah, so there's the calibration step that I was talking about. The deck duration and RA duration, they're fine. I really don't find myself having any errors that require guide pulses of that sort of size, so that's already total overkill. I do leave my guide scope and guide camera in place all the time, so I can safely restore calibration. Nothing's going to change on that. We can see here in the dither settings, I've got it set to dither every 5 frames by 5 pixels. I hope that all makes sense. And I don't want it to dither just in right ascension only. I want it to dither in both axes, as it's a full GoTo mount, so why not make use of the best dithers possible. So I'll just close all this down, and now all I need to do is just hit go. And I've forgotten my cooling, so I'll just go set that right now. Yeah, I'm set to 100 gain. That's what it always defaults to on this 2600. I'm going to be cooling to 0 degrees, as there's limited benefit in going much lower on this camera, except for maybe suppressing hot pixels. But as I'm dithering anyway, they are not going to be a problem. What else is worth talking about here? The customized file name. I have all of these ticked. You can just tick and untick them as you wish. I want it to show the camera model, the gain, the date and the temperature, all of those. The histogram's going to use a logarithmic scale. Automatic white balance of screen, that's good, otherwise the preview would be very green indeed. I think this is on by default. I'll just come back out of that. And if I just check where this is going to get saved. So if you don't have an SD card in the ASIAIR Plus itself, it will default to saving it to the eMMC inside. But as I do have an SD card, it's just easier for me to transport files around that way. It's actually chose to automatically save my files to this. As you can see, it's all totally empty and ready to go. Anyway, in that case, it's just cooling down now. If I just wait, well, I don't really need to wait. I'll just set it off. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm just going to set it off imaging now while the clouds are away and see if I can get a few frames on this target. Alright, so everything's set up and running now, and I have to say that seemed like it didn't take very long at all. It probably felt like a while to you guys watching it, but when you're busy and doing things, it certainly doesn't seem like long at all. Indeed, certainly no longer than it would take just using the PC. In fact, probably less time. There were no time messing around, going in between individual programs, moving from SharpCap for pole alignment over into perhaps Astro photography tool and then letting the camera cool again. And it's just, I do find it a drag, I have to be honest with you, but the ASIAIR Plus for me, that's why it's such a good fit, because I'm quite lazy and I also like streamlining, and this all fits in with that perfectly. Alright, so just while I'm waiting for this first exposure to come in and hopefully show you there's no clouds passing through just yet, I had an idea to demonstrate how much stronger the Wi-Fi is. I'm going to now, while screen recording is happening on my phone, go take a walk up my garden and see if the Wi-Fi signal drops off at all. So I use this garden sometimes for target shooting, as one of my other hobbies is, as I just mentioned, target shooting with my air rifle, and I know that the length of the garden is 20 meters exactly. So if I walk up here to where I keep my pet chickens, I'll just show you those in a moment. Hello girls. They're all huddled together. They should be in bed, but they're staying out right now. This is about 17 meters, I'd say, at this point. The scope is just off down there, and by this point there's seemingly no degradation in the Wi-Fi signal whatsoever. If I just turn the camera around again 1 second, maybe you can see the scope down there. But yeah, that's mighty impressive. I do know another test that I did the other night, and this is something I absolutely could not have done with the ASIAIR Pro, is that I took my phone inside, left it connected to the Wi-Fi, went upstairs and to the opposite side of the house, so it was not only going through doors and walls, but also a ceiling and floor as well, and it remained connected right at the opposite side of the house. It was weak by that point, but just the fact it remained connected I found extremely impressive. That's certainly a massive improvement if Wi-Fi strength was one of your main concerns and reasons for upgrading. Alright, so that first exposure we're talking about, that's came in now. It's on exposure 2, and it's just a quick look at this. I have to say, this is known to me as a very faint target, so the fact that it's picking that up is a good sign indeed for the Esprit and the reducer, the LX Stream and the camera. But what can I say? Guiding's working really well. Absolutely zero complaints there. The stars look nice and pinprick sharp, so I certainly don't think there's any miscommunication between the reported guide error and the actual guide error. Sometimes you'll see, it's rare, but I have had it happen where your guiding seems to be okay and your stars are still a little bit eggy, some eccentricity to them, but that's not happening in this case. If I just take this opportunity to show you something with the histogram as well, if you like, you can press this little plus icon and move up the black point and just let that readjust and move across the midpoint slider. You can do yourself a little bit more of an aggressive stretch if you're trying to find an object on the screen. Noteworthy as well is what a good job ASIAIR Plus there has done of white balancing the image. There's no strange green cast, it's actually just true colour. Yeah, it looks really good. I guess you can probably imagine by this point how impressed I am with this unit. I'm still not really registering with me just how good this is. I'm sat out here messing around on my phone, doing a full deep sky imaging session. How good is that? Alright, I've just came outside to check on things. There's a few scattered clouds around, but it's kept on imaging pretty much faultlessly, I would say. Well, totally faultlessly. As you can see, the counterweight bar is now parallel with the ground, and that means we're due a Meridian flip. Now, I just came outside because I wanted to actually watch it do it, to make sure it is going to do it and it's all implemented working correctly. I've no doubt that it is, but still it would be interesting to see. So this is all part of the auto run plan. I've told it to actually do this on its own, and in 45 seconds, I think, it's going to hopefully do that. I don't know if changes take effect mid-plan, but I did actually update the EAF settings and tell it to do a, where are they now? Autofocus. Perform another autofocus after a Meridian flip. My focus doesn't need it, but I just wanted to do it as part of a test anyway. But yeah, hopefully this is all going to go off without a hitch, and we'll just watch it happen now. It should be no longer than about 10 seconds. Let's see. It's doing it. This is cool. I'm easily amused, but this is cool. So, that's actually fantastic. Wow, I have to say I'm being spoilt by this thing. Why would I haul a laptop outside and things like that when I just don't have to? I could do everything from my phone. How crazy is that? I've seen 1,000 Meridian flips, but this one's special. All right, there's no cable snagging or anything like that. I didn't expect that there would be. As you can see, my routing for the cables just went up and into the ASIAIR right there. It should now plate solve itself and perform an autofocus. Let's see how that works. Okay, so it's validating that it's centered and by taking an exposure. As you can see, it's shooting 3, 2, 1. It's going to plate solve that and verify its position. Probably won't be perfect. Okay, so it's decided it's uncentered. It's going to retry it now after making a small corrective movement. Okay, it's running a 10-second exposure again to validate where it is, if its correction was accurate. It's going to try and put me back exactly where I was pointing before. That's back straight on IC63. target is centered, so it's completely successfully performed a flip, and sure enough, it's just set off the autofocus tool. This is mind-bogglingly cool. Wow. I have to say I'm really glad I bought the temperature probe for my focuser as well, because ASIAIR Plus, and I think the Pro as well, is able to perform autofocus based on temperature change. So I don't have to really come out here and think to myself, has it dropped a few degrees? Is my scope perhaps due refocus? Because that little temperature probe is going to keep an eye on this for me and just perform a refocus whenever I've set it to. So I've currently got it set to be every 1 degree it'll do another autofocus. Anyway, I'm just going to leave this running now, and I'll catch up with you all in a little bit. All right, I'm back. It's it's just blowing me away. I know you can probably see this on screen anyway, but it's actually just doing its final pass now on autofocus, all completely automated. I could have been asleep right now and it still would have done this, which is just, well, I can't tell you how valuable that is. But yeah, this is spoiling me completely. I think astronomy is ruined for me now with a laptop. There we go, it's finished. Is it going to pick up the plan now? Sure enough, it's settling, and I imagine in moments to come, there we go. It's picked up guiding again on its own. Let's just see what it selected. Yeah, it's picked a star. It's doing multi-star guiding again automatically. And it's just set off an exposure. What more needs to be said, really? This is amazing. Well, it's almost 5 in the morning now, and it's rare you should feel this energized at 5 in the morning, but it's probably equally rare that you should enjoy using something as much as I'm currently enjoying using this bit of kit right now. So I've got just over 4 hours of sub exposures now on the Ghosting Cassiopeia, and I'll tell you what is weird, going from like the start of the night where I was looking up and seeing Cygnus to looking up now and seeing Pleiades and then Taurus and Orion right there, which is a fantastic sight to see again. I'm filled with anticipation for that in this coming season. I can't wait to shoot it again. But this does represent my first proper time using the ASIAIR Plus. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, I did get it out for one little session, which was just a really cruddy, cloudy night. I couldn't have done any imaging, but I certainly could use it as I did for making sure everything was working correctly and setting up. And a little bit of familiarization, that sort of thing. But yeah, this is my first proper imaging session, and I hope it's representative of what all my imaging sessions are going to be like going forwards, because, well, first impressions are, it is a dream to use. I'm having a ball. So you might ask yourself, you know, why are you having so much fun using this device? And I think it really just hits the nail on the head for me. It aligns so well with my own personal kind of beliefs for what astronomy should be all about, for me at least anyway. I want it to be accessible and frankly as easy as possible, and I found PC-based astrophotography to be largely anything but. It's quite hard to get all that software working and talking together and playing nice. Getting it all set up the first time is one thing, but then when you start getting gremlins that are just seemingly inexplicable and you go through an endless cycle of rebooting your PC and unplugging cameras, and it's enough to grind anybody down if you've had that sort of experience. And I'm hoping that this is going to sort of bypass all that sort of thing. I'm not as naive as to think it's going to be completely plain sailing all the time, but certainly being locked into one ecosystem, if you like, with ZWO products only it's probably a blessing, as well as some people might view it being a curse as such. But it certainly wasn't a painful switch for me. To make my system compatible with it, I had to change two things. Just my guide camera, I was using a QHY5L2 mono, and my focuser as well. I was using a Sesto Senso, a great unit, and I switched that out for the ZWO unit. That did require a little bit of modification to my Esprit's focuser block, but fortunately I'm not a stranger to using tools and a bit of engineering, so that were absolutely no problem whatsoever to drill and tap a few holes in the bottom of that. They're completely neat, and it's perfect on there. It's gone on fantastically well, and I have no complaints. So in my case, at least, it was a really painless switch, and I've got no complaints whatsoever there. So without going on too long, I know that ship's already sailed, but do I think this is for absolutely everybody? Certainly not. There's no way. But if you're an astronomer, astrophotographer like me, who craves kind of simplicity, streamlining, and yet still the power to do astronomy to a high level, I like to think, then yes, it probably is for you. If you're already using mostly ZWO gear, and it's not going to be a huge task switching all your stuff over, you know, if you're using completely the wrong branded cameras, guide scope, focuser, etc., then yeah, it's probably not for you in that case. But at least for me, it was, as I said, quite painless. So before I jump off now and take some flats, I'm going to talk you through that, by the way. Amazingly, this video isn't actually over just yet. Do I have any final thoughts? Yes, I'm extremely happy that I own one. It is now going to be my main imaging system, 100%. I will occasionally go back to using the PC, but not particularly because I want to. It's going to be because no doubt people will want to see PC-based content. We're not making content for YouTube and things like that. You can bet that the PC would just gather dust. I'll be totally honest with you, it would. I'm too lazy to want to put up with messing around if I don't have to, and that's really where this thing shines. So extremely happy I own one. It's absolutely worth the money if you value like similar things that I do. And what can I say? I'm just excited to be doing astronomy again. I don't feel any more dread about getting laptop out and what new problem might appear tonight that I'm going to have to address first before I can start making videos. None of that. It's just I'm going to be able to get things out and use it. I hope. I just hope that this session that I've had now, this pretty much dream session, has been representative of what it's going to be like going forwards, because I've had more fun doing this than I've had in ages. I think that itself speaks volumes. I just wanted to add one more quick thing on the end, as it just popped into my mind there. How has this been to use compared to the ASIAIR Pro? So, well, the main thing really for me has been that Wi-Fi boost, being able to go inside, take my phone with me, and just keep an eye on the imaging session while I can just, well, laze around and do other things at the same time has been fantastic. It's really nice to be able to keep an eye on it without any disconnects and such. So that is a huge boost over the Pro for me. In terms of just general usability, it's really quite similar. I know it's maybe a little bit faster, not just in terms of Wi-Fi speeds, but I mean the responsiveness of the unit itself inside the app. It's a little bit snappier than the Pro. Not that the Pro was slow by any means. Anything else really? Yeah, I really enjoy the power management thing. So I've currently got my Dew heater powered by the ASIAIR itself, and rather than having it constantly full blast as it used to be, which was just way too hot, it's actually a Dew heater for an 11-inch Smith Cassegrain on a 5-inch refractor, would you believe it? So it were overkill. I've now got it turned down to like 70% or something like that, and you get a real-time readout of the voltage that's being given to it, how much power is going through the unit and things like that. And yeah, it's just fantastic to have like an inbuilt Dew controller. How cool is that? Just one more thing you don't need to buy and mess around with. That's got some value to it. Alright, so we're about to go through the process taking some flats, so I'm going to talk you through that as best as I know. I'm just going to go ahead and pause this exposure and stop the guiding, just leave that looping for a moment. Right, so I've currently got a little plan set up here which is going to be 30 flat frames. I'll have to reset the progress apparently. So right, there we go. I can turn off the light frames and do the flats. If I just open this up, you can see I've got flat frames selected. The exposure time is set to automatic. I'm going to trust it's going to figure it out itself. I want to take 30 flats, that seems like plenty to me, and have them all at bin 1. Second, after that, I'm going to allow it to take some bias frames, which I'm actually going to use as flat darks almost, if you like. So I've guessed an exposure of about half a second. That might not be perfect, but this camera's really not finicky, so it's going to be more than good enough. You can bet your hat on that one. So again, I've got bias selected, exposures of half a second, 30 frames, and these are all at bin 1. So I'm just going to select flats alone right now. I'm just going to pop the phone down a second. Turn on my little lamp. And I've just got my custom flat panel here, which is just an A4 tracing panel from Amazon, which I cut a small gasket out of. You know, the foam flooring tiles for like inside a garage, that sort of thing. Well, that's what I've made a gasket out of, so it doesn't mark my scope at all or any such thing. And I've just plugged that into the spare USB that I have on the ASIAIR Plus. Sorry, I'll turn that light off for you now. And I've just turned it on to number 1 brightness. So I'm going to go ahead and come back out of this and hit start. So what's this doing now? It's going to calculate the exposure length that it needs to take. So it's taking I assume taking test shots and judging the brightness of those exposures to get a decently exposed flat somewhere around 40 to 50% across the histogram on the peak, and it looks like it's figured it out. So it's started taking flats already. That's fantastic. It's downloading frames there. You can see 7 megabytes a second to my phone, and that is one heck of a flat frame. What a weird gradient. Oop, I'm just messing around with this histogram here a second, see if I can make sense of that view. I think it's zoomed in, yeah. Well, that's what it says is a flat frame. We'll soon find out if they work. I'll come back to you when it's time to take the bias frames. Alright, so flats capture is now finished, and I'm going to be honest with you, they look, well, you can probably see it on screen anyway, they look a little bit wacky to me. So I'm going to try really quickly again, just setting it off, taking another set, but this time with the brightness maybe turned up to full. I don't know, just in case there's some non-uniformity to how it lights the panel on a lower setting perhaps. That we're using 6-second exposures to get an accurate flat exposure. Let's see what it figures out this time, I guess, and see if the flat looks the same or any different. I could be totally wrong. I probably am, but yeah, I just haven't really seen flats looking like that before. A little bit odd. Let's see what it figures out anyway. Well, I guess the proof is in the pudding. These flats, it's just worked out, look exactly the same, even though the exposure is far shorter. So I'm going to pause the auto run there and just get rid of these non-matching flats. Turn off the panel and remove that in a second. I guess this is as good a time as any to show you how to browse the file navigation. So in here we can see flats, and it goes from the earliest frames at the bottom to the very newest frames at the top. So there should be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So this top row are the ones that need to go. Guess I'm a poet, I just didn't know it. Right, those ones are all marked. I'm just going to hit to delete on those, and now I'm just going to go ahead and trust that those first flats it worked out are correct. Next thing is going to be to take the bias frames, so I'll just leave it rolling and let's go set up for that right now. I'll just put the phone down a moment. Okay, pull that off. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with how the panel's illuminated, so that's a strange one. Okay, that's the flats panel removed. Now I need my lens cap because we're taking bias frames and we need no light coming in. Alright, that's seated nicely. In fact, I'll just whip that off a second there real quick. You'll have to excuse my beautiful comfort attire that I'm wearing. Yeah, there's no dew forming anywhere. It's all completely clear, all the optics. I just can't explain those flats, that's weird. Anyway, grab hold of my phone again and let's go. So, anyway, I'm going to untick the flats once I've reset the progress. I'm seeing that this is a common theme. Bias are now selected, and I'm going to hit to start. Those half-second exposures, it's just going to rattle those off, and that should be the end of it. I've got all my files tonight being saved to a micro SD card automatically, so I don't have to actually transfer the files off to a USB stick or anything like that. I can just remove that micro SD from the device, take that with me, and go process the files when, well, tomorrow. Not right now because storm's breaking. Yeah, the bias frames look totally normal at least anyway. I guess that's about it for tonight. I'll just put my phone down. I really just want to say thank you very much indeed for watching. I'm really sorry if I've rambled incoherently at times. I wanted to keep this video as raw and authentic as possible, so there's been absolutely no scripting or anything like that, so apologies in advance for any of the chaos that may have ensued as to how things pop into my mind and then just spew out of my mouth. But yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed the video. I hope maybe you've learned a thing or two about how this thing's working, and maybe learned a bit more about my own personal beliefs on astronomy and things like that. It's not really something I've spoke that much about before. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you very much indeed to all my my YouTube channel members, you guys, and all the support you give. It really is greatly appreciated. That little bit of money is going to actually help me continue to do things with this channel that I want to do. So thank you. And with that said, I think that's about all that I've got. So until next time, Clay skies.